Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Venture Institute Ask Me Anything event hosted by VC Lab. I'm so excited to, be doing this session with all of you. So my name is Mirto Lalikos. I'm a principal at VC Lab, and I'm going to be kind of your host for today. I'm going to be explaining to you everything that you need to know about the Venture Institute. And we also have a special guest as well who's here to kind of tell you about her experience being on the program, as well as answer some of your questions. And, this is an AMA, it's an Ask Me Anything session. And so we want this to be as interactive as possible. So, for that reason, throughout the session, if you do have questions that you want to ask me, or ask our speaker today, you can add them in the Q&A button. So you'll see that this session is hosted on AirMeet, and there's a chat button which you can use to kind of discuss with the rest of the attendees who are here today. And then there's also a Q&A section. There's a little tab, you're going to see it above the chat button, and that's where you can submit questions to ask to myself, to the panelists throughout the session about the program or anything that you want to know. So make sure that you use this feature today. So, you know, I want to start off by telling you guys a little bit about VC Lab, which is kind of, the organization that is running the Venture Institute before we get started, just to kind of add a little bit of context here as to what it is that we're doing. So, at VC Lab, uh, our mission is to make venture capital into a force for good. So, it's our view that the world is not headed in a very good direction. um, you can use the emoji reactions button if you agree. And, we're looking to make the world a better place. One of the things that has a huge capacity to kind of change how things are done in the world is venture capital, because it's this unique kind of tool and resource that allows pretty much anyone to bring an idea into reality. And so we've seen that venture capital is at the root of so many kind of innovations that are beneficial for climate, for society, and stuff like that. And we want to make sure that we continue on that thread. We want to work with people who want to change the world through venture capital. And so what we're doing is that we're making it cheaper for anyone to launch a venture capital fund in the world. For the first time, we're opening up the knowledge for how anyone could start a venture capital fund. We're democratizing it. We're bringing venture capital to places that it never existed up until now in the world. So we helped to, launch the first fund in Mongolia, for example. There wasn't a venture capital fund before, and now there's a whole ecosystem blooming over there, right? We're making venture capital more diverse. So for anyone here that has a little bit of experience in venture capital, you'll know that the sector is kind of run by a very homogenous group of people. And even if you look at, who is managing the venture capital funds of today, you'll see that there's a very small minority of funds that have a woman running the firm, right? And so, just by way of example, we are at a stage right now where we are accelerating half of all the new venture capital funds that are coming out in the world every year. And 30% of those, on average, have at least one woman general partner, which is so much better than the industry average. Our goal is to make this 50%, obviously, and we're working really hard towards that. Um, but, as part of this change of bringing venture capital into the hands of people that haven't, traditionally been running the firms, we also need, a new generation of people who are going to be staffing these firms, who are going to be working as associates, analysts, principals, partners, directors in these new ethical venture capital funds that are starting up right now. And this is where Venture Institute, comes in. So we're powering through this program the next generation of VCs that are going to be working in these new and emerging venture capital funds, because we need to be staffing these firms and helping these new managers out with very, very talented people. So um, Venture Institute, which we're here to talk about today, is basically a 9-week program that we run completely for free that helps individuals learn about the basics of venture capital. And we help everyone kind of gain the skills that they need to excel in this space. So if you're someone who's kind of doing, it doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter what degree you have, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're kind of thinking, I want to start a career in venture capital, then this is a great program for you. So I want to go into a lot of depth here about the program and kind of what opportunities um, you know, uh, 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 presents it presents for you. So um, during the program, we're going to be covering a range of foundational knowledge about venture capital. So we're going to be looking at how do VCs source deals? How do you conduct due diligence on deals? How do you support portfolio companies? How do you actually set up a venture capital fund? How do you fundraise for venture capital funds? Who are the people or the institutions investing in these funds, right? Where does the money come from and where does it go? What does it mean to be an ethical VC, right? So we're really kind of taking a very broad approach in terms of kind of teaching you about venture capital. Um, During the program, you're going to be exposed to a range of, mentors who are top notch in their field. So it's going to be the best kind of fund accountants teaching you about, how do you project venture capital financials. It's going to be the best kind of deal assessors talking to you about how do you source and diligence deals. You are going to hear from the best of the best in venture capital right now. um, Everyone's going to be here to share their knowledge with you and provide you insight into how you can enter venture capital with a real edge. So how we do this is kind of through a range of activities. So um, every week, program participants attend a 1 hour live webinar, which is recorded, and obviously you can play it back or you can watch it from, at a different time if you can't join the session. So 1 hour webinar. Then you have an extra hour to kind of connect with the community, and I want to talk a little bit about that too. And there is, a curriculum that we've put together that helps you to, further and guide your learning, basically. Um, so it's a very intense program. In many ways, it's quite intense because there's a lot to do. Whilst there's just a 1 hour webinar, the curriculum really helps you to learn about venture capital by doing and kind of researching things by yourself. But of course, we're going to be giving you a lot of tools to, help with your learning. So we're going to be, giving you a lot of learning material and various templates that you can use in order to kind of apply your knowledge or simulate various kind of activities in a venture capital fund. We're also going to be giving you access and the opportunity to learn how to use Decile Hub. Decile Hub is the software or the operating system that is used by most new and emerging managers today to streamline a lot of their funds um, processes, from fundraising all the way to kind of deploying the fund and managing their portfolio. And so, as part of the program, you also get Decile Hub certified, which means that, if at the end of the program you start applying to VC funds, you can also say that, you know how to use Decile Hub, which means a lot to new managers because, if they're using this system, it means that they don't need to train you and you can kind of hit the ground running by knowing how to use this tool and the software once you kind of start um, working for the firm. So, as part of the program, there's a very large emphasis on quality of work. Um, with everything that we do at VC Lab, because we're a very mission oriented company, and because the world is at a very critical stage right now, we, believe that it's very important that we work with the best. Okay. Because it's only the best and most driven and most dedicated and focused people that are able to kind of get us out of this mess that we're in right now. Okay. We don't have a lot of time. We need to kind of turn the tide as fast as possible. And so, in everything that we do, there's a real focus on us working with the best. It doesn't matter, once again, what your background is, it matters how you are today, how focused, motivated, intelligently you're working today. So, for that reason, as part of Venture Institute, there's also reviews, okay, that all the participants are going to be going through, because we want to make sure that only the best of the group are kind of given at the end a certificate of completion of Venture Institute that actually means anything, right? So if we were doing this program and everyone could go through the program and get the certificate at the end, then the certificate doesn't mean anything. But if it's a very, kind of challenging program to complete, that and you can only get the certificate if you've really dedicated a lot of effort and time into this, then, and only the best of the best get the certificate, then it actually means something to have this, right? So we're doing this for you as well. We want to make sure that coming out of this program, you have something that you can put on your CV to show, I have, a recognized kind of uh, um, I've gone through this kind of very recognized course in venture capital, and I am a quality candidate, right? Um, so that's a little bit about the program. Obviously, please do ask questions if there's anything you want to know in more detail. But I want to talk to you now about the kind of flip side almost of Venture Institute. So, Venture Institute is kind of a learning program. You have the curriculum, it's all very theoretical. If you did a good job, you get your certificate at the end, you've passed your reviews, happy days. You can go out and start kind of applying to venture capital roles. So, that's kind of the experience for a lot of people that go through the program. However, for the best of the best of the best, there's also the residency route that is available at the end of the program. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this residency option. So, because Venture Institute is a very theoretical program, and we understand that most people that go through the program are learning for a real world kind of learning opportunity. What we're doing is that we're offering residencies, which is an additional 8 weeks, uh, kind of part time opportunity to apply your learning in a real live fund that is part of the VC Lab community, which means that, we're working with this fund, and they've expressed to us the desire to bring on a resident from these batches of Venture Institute cohorts. So this is a really kind of exciting opportunity for a lot of people. It's a continuation basically of your learning experience. But what we've seen is that at the end of the residencies, not only, do you have something even stronger on your CV to say, I've actually, spent 8 weeks um, working alongside a fund. This is what I did. You can kind of show some of the work that you've done. But also in some scenarios, those residencies turn into full-time positions, which is really exciting. And we're starting to see it more and more. So we can talk about the residency in a little bit more detail. But I do want to mention one more thing, right? So as part of kind of with Venture Institute being a part of VC Lab, the program kind of asks every participant to pledge to the Mensarius Oath. And this ensures that all the participants in the cohort are committed to practicing venture capital with integrity and that they all have a focus on positive societal impact. So, once again, impact is at the core of what we do and why we do things. And we want to make sure that we're creating a community that's aligning on ethics. And so we ask every participant to pledge the Mensarius Oath. Um, so with that, I do want to say a few words about the community. Obviously, there's the learning program. There's potentially an opportunity for you to become a resident at a real life venture capital fund. But there's also, a big value add of the program is the community of other Venture Institute participants that you're going to be, in this program with. These are very large cohorts, so it could be up to 350 people starting out in each of these cohorts that we run. They're from all over the world, but there's one thing in common with everyone. Everyone is screened to be to be very talented, to come from very diverse kind of backgrounds. And one of the greatest things for us is to kind of see all these friendships that happen throughout the program because you guys are going to be working together, you're going to be discussing ideas, and we're going to be, providing a lot of opportunities for you to kind of mingle and network with each other. So that's another thing that you guys can look forward to. And once again, you're all aligning on ethics and values, which is another beautiful thing about this community that that these communities that emerge from Venture Institute. So look, this is an AMA, so I want to make sure that we take a lot of time to answer your questions. If you do have questions, put them in the Q&A. If you want to apply, we're going to add a link to the application form in the chat right now. The deadline for cohort 4 is December 23rd. So there's a few more days for you guys to apply. The cohort is filling up. So if you are looking to apply, please send in your finalized application as soon as possible. And now, uh, I, want to introduce Migle Rakitaite, who is here to, speak to you guys as well about her experience of being in Venture Institute, getting a residency, and then landing a full-time role in venture capital. So we thought this would be, a great addition to this event so that you can hear it firsthand from someone who's been through the experience. And that's why we're so happy to have Migle on today. Thank you for the emoji reactions. Please give her a big round of applause. And with that, Migle, I'm going to pass over to you so that you can further introduce yourself for everyone here.
Right. Hi, everyone. I am Migle, and as Mirto mentioned, I was part of the cohort 3, and I went through such a great ups and downs, but mainly extreme learning and practical experience. And I was so glad at the end to be selected to be part of the residence. And I'm even more prouder to say that I am currently a full-time employee at VC Lab and helping with the accelerator itself. So it has been an interesting journey, and I'm super glad to answer any of more practical questions as someone that went through the program myself. And I think maybe Mirta, we want to go through some of the questions as well from me. I was thinking just to briefly introduce, that the program welcomes really different pathways of people as well. I myself come from the tech industry. I was chief digital officer at a blockchain company and then eventually started helping fundraising for the founder. And I realized that I'm actually extremely passionate about venture capital and I've already had an experience, but it was really a different struggle because my background was entirely different and technology. And I was like, how I'm going to break it through into venture capital. So I was extremely glad that on my LinkedIn I saw Mensarius Oath popping up. That's something that you will be doing as well, sharing with the community. And I start seeing, wow, ethical investing, that's super interesting. And I start seeing Decel Group. I realized that it's connected to Founders Institute that I was very well aware as a ex-startup founder myself. And then eventually I found Myrtle and her profile and what she shares about venture capital. And that really spoke to me, and I saw so much practical knowledge that I can gain. And I did not wait, and I applied for the cohort, and I was so incredibly happy to be accepted. And yeah, so I'm super glad to answer any of your questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Migli. We're so happy to have you here. So, do you maybe want to tell us? I know you touched on this a little bit, but can you share how you discovered Venture Institute and kind of what drew you to apply to the program?
I think what was important to say to me is that I also attended one of these events, and we also had some of the ex cohort members. And that's something that stuck to me, is that you leave this program with not only with the information, but also with portfolio. And you can take it with your own hands where you're going to use that portfolio. If you put 100%, there are all opportunities for you to walk away with so much to add into your portfolio. You're going to be working on a lot of practical projects, and you're going to be exposed to some of the greatest network members. You are going to be seeing and interacting with so many great fellow members that are also breaking into the venture capital industry, and you can share your experiences. And that's something what really draw to me to come, because it was not just an education where I'm going to be doing my work every week myself, but it was really all given opportunities for me to collaborate with others, to share my experiences, and to understand how can my background, my diverse background, bring all the benefits to venture capital. That's something that really is amazing, because every week we have guests that come from many different pathways as well, and they truly make you understand how can you utilize all of the specialty knowledge that you have to the venture capital career that you can have as well.
I love that so much. Migli, can you mention kind of about your cohort experience and any kind of experiences that stood out or takeaways that you have from the program?
Okay, so uh, I think I'll just say to start with that it's going to be an interesting ride, because it's 9 weeks. And on the first weeks, you're kind of, venture capital 101, you're getting through abbreviations. Maybe some of the things, especially the ones that have some experience in venture capital, are going to be known. But the way that the program is made, that even going through venture capital 101 will open the eyes to a lot of different angles of the industry itself. But by the week 8 or 9, you're super deep into like venture capital. You're using the words, the abbreviations, like it's your second language, their first language. You're doing things like venture capital fund accounting tasks, or creating financial modeling for venture capital during the cap tables. You're going into the sheets. You're being really deep into the trenches, and that's something that really stood out for me. That when I was looking back, I was like, wow, like 3 months ago, I wasn't able to do that. And then I was so lucky that I was going to some of the local venture capital events. And I was part of the conversations, like in a group with other venture capitalists that had been working in the industry for years. And all of a sudden, I felt like I was a valuable member being part of that conversation, because I already did all of those practical tasks. I went through all of that theoretical knowledge. I communicated with others. I heard firsthand from all of the guests and the way they were talking. So I was able to keep up the conversations with, venture capitalists that have been in the industry for 5 years. And here I am, just kind of getting my first leg up, and I am adding the value into the conversation, because that's what's something that's so unique about Venture Institute, that they truly help you to think about how you're going to rebrand yourself. They do pay attention to even, things on how to market yourself on LinkedIn, and what you can post there, and how can you become this thought leader of the industry, and how can you use your knowledge. That's so incredibly useful. Not a lot of the programs are doing that. So that's something that also really, stood out for me. And again, as I said, like it really depends how much effort you're going to put into it. But I brought out so much into my portfolio. Like, for example, I we were given one of the weeks to do deal memo of the startup. And, I went full in. I, actually went scouting for a startup. I found the one that if I had the capital, I would invest in them. And I, made super intricate, detailed deal memo that, was super actually useful for the startup itself. And then the last thing that I would mention, another highlight from it's definitely the diverse community that you're exposed and like the professionals that you meet as well. Utilize that. I think I had every week at least like 5 meetings with cohort like peers. And we would discuss from things like how are you handling this week's sprint, how is it going, any tips, but also things like how can we help each other professionally, how can we work together on a CV, what applications are you going through. And then I can say that the community is super active. I put a lot of effort into the community, and community gave me back. Like till this day, we are active as well, and we give each other, for example, speaker opportunities, or we say, I'm hosting in New York, this VC event, come by, and we're sharing each other like, oh, I got hired, after the cohort, and we're all like cheering for one another. We even created like a subgroup in Dessel Hub, I believe, where we were posting each other's like LinkedIn links, like posts, and encouraging each other, like commenting just to have the support. So it truly feels like these are super motivated people. Our admissions, now that I understand from the inside, like the admissions are working so hard, that every single person that is selected to be here in the cohort is really like top-notch professional and really determined to be here. So to be surrounded by these people, it's incredibly encouraging. And the amount of opportunities that you gain just being part of that community is also super impactful and super diverse. I think I was one of the younger cohort members as well, but it is such a diverse range. We had few maybe students like doing their MBAs, and then we had people in their late 60s, completely changing their careers. And that's so incredibly valuable that it is absolutely for everyone from all around the world as well, from Europe to Africa to US. And we all somehow like manage, like VC Lab also does a great job to make sure that everyone from different parts of the world can join the sessions, and if not, there's like recordings. So it's just so well organized as well that I'm still so incredibly happy that I went through all of it. So I think there's a lot that I can expand as well, like Decel Hub, and oh my god, like the fact that you get access to the software in the first place. And then second of all, you leave the program being able to do venture capital admin work on this newest software. That's huge. Put that on your CV that you're capable of bringing a new software that is so powered by AI and beneficial for your venture capital company, and you're gonna be able to use all of the different features on the platform as well. And the fact that you can share that with your potential employee, that's incredibly impactful and so useful to secure a potential job or to move on in the career as well, or even eventually, to open your own fund as well.
Wow, I love that so much. There's a lot of questions already in the chat. But everyone, make sure you submit your questions. We're going to start heading into the Q&A and kind of featuring these questions up the top here. So, Migli, before we get into that though, can you just kind of tell us a little bit about how the program has impacted your career, and your perspectives about venture capital?
Yes. So as I said, my first introduction to the program was through Mensarius Oath. And, even when I got the letter asking VC Lab for me to share, Mensarius Oath on my LinkedIn, I was super happy to do that because I do support the ethical investing and all of the points that Mensarius Oath mentions it. But now that I understand, the reasons that it also how it positions me in the market and what I stand behind, and that I very publicly communicate that with, um, I realized that I immediately was starting to connect and get connections from the people that were also supporting Mensarius Oath, that were also part of the alumni of the VC Lab. And that's so incredibly valuable for my career and positioning myself where I am and who I stand for in this industry. That was incredibly valuable. And things like what I've already mentioned, like the practical knowledge that I've gained, that I use it every day now in my job, and the portfolio that I've gained and continue to build. Like it is a lot of the tools, like the Dasal Hub knowledge, that I am Dasal Hub certified, and that also helps me in my day-to-day job. And also, I touched upon that a bit, but just to ratify that, the way I was taught to also brand myself and to be the thought leader and go out into the community and share my thoughts about venture capital. How can I position myself the best? That's so incredibly valuable. So I would say it has absolutely did, huge impact on my career moving forward. It has made me question and rethink where to position myself. So the fact that I kicked off with Mensarius Oath, I did not even know, could not grasp what a big impact it will have. And today, now that it's been, almost half a year, like I can say that it had incredible impact, like for my career as a whole. So I do hope that everyone here also like understands even better today, like why we ask you to share the Mensarius Oath, and we hope you continue following that as well.
That's amazing, Migli. Thank you so much for sharing this. What I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna pick some good questions in the Q&A, and I'm gonna do show on stage here. Uh, is the question showing? Yeah, there we go. So question from Georgie. He or she, I think Georgie is a he, is asking, what are the top three things we have to focus on during the program to get the most out of it? So Migle, maybe you can start and then I can cover with any gaps.
Yes, I would say trust the process. That's something that we really say at VC Lab, like every day in our internal meetings and external meetings that we have. Uh, Sometimes you might see your weekly sprints that you're going to have to complete, and you might start thinking, why am I doing this week? Or maybe I don't know just yet enough. So trust the process that the program is really designed. They know they base everything, on knowledge, on data, what it works, what doesn't work. So trust the process. The next one, don't push it till the last moment. Focus on being speedy and doing everything on time and fast. It is incredibly important because this industry is super fast. You need to, gain new knowledge every week. You need to stay up to date with things. So if you follow up with all of the sprints, you don't ask for extensions, if you complete everything on time, that will set you apart to succeed in your career. That's incredibly important because that is the pace in the venture capital industry. So if you're kind of following behind, like be aware that the job itself, it will be even 10 times faster. So be aware of that. That's super important to focus. And another one, take initiatives. Like you're gonna be uh, accessing this community that I mentioned, and it's super up to you how much you're gonna take out of it. As I mentioned, focus on things like you get a task of making a deal memo or cap table, and it's up to you how much you're going to spend time on it. So I would say take initiative, take extra step to research, whether there are some new tools to do this with. Maybe I can add something new into it. So take that initiative, put that extra step and effort, and you're definitely going to succeed to get the most out of the program.
Yeah, and so I just want to add a few things here. So obviously, what we're looking to do is create good VCs. Okay, and so what is a good VC? There's a lot of things that there's a variety of different profiles of VCs that are good, but there are some core similarities that good VCs share. Okay, so first of all, they're very good professionals. They work fast. Venture capital is an industry where if you don't act quickly, you lose the best deals, right? And so if you're kind of sitting on the founder's email or not showing up to the meeting or delaying kind of your analysis of the investment opportunity, then the good founders are just going to raise capital from somewhere else. Okay, you need to be reliable. You need to show to these founders and to other VCs that you're working with that you're someone that can be trusted, that you're going to say you're going to do something and then you're going to go ahead and do it. You don't need to We don't need to be following up with you all the time. You know how to meet deadlines. Good VCs are also very analytical, right? So they're able to kind of um, take a large amount of information and kind of distill it down to an opinion and a point of view. And they're incredibly resourceful, right? So it's kind of what Migle was saying as well. what's a better tool, they're asking themselves, what's a better tool to do this better or faster? Who can I speak to who might know about this topic really well? Where am I going to be finding founders that are really good but nobody else is looking at? So they keep kind of trying to make their work process better, and they're trying to be faster, and they're constantly looking at ways to improve how they work. And then they have a unique perspective, right? So if it was, when Snapchat came about, and the first kind of investors looked at it, it was most of these investors just kind of passed on the opportunity, right? They kind of didn't understand why Snap, formerly known as Snapchat, was, such a, how this thing could be a billion-dollar company, but yet, the investors that actually took a shot and had the unique perspective that, what, I can actually see how this is going to become huge, is going to kind of really change how this particular demographic communicates amongst themselves, and they made over 1,000x on their investments, right? And there's kind of stories like this everywhere. So these are just kind of like some attributes that good VCs share. And what we're trying to do in the program is see if you have these attributes, right? So when we're talking about reliability, are you able to meet the deadline for the weekly work that you need to do? Can you submit stuff on time? Are you analytical? Are you able to kind of take all of this information about venture capital and distill it down to your own unique point of view? um, Resourcefulness, do you need to be kind of given the step by sub step guide in order to do anything, on any new tool that you're using? Or can you kind of like tweak it and try it out and try new methods yourself, or kind of like work with someone to advance your knowledge? You know what I mean? So it's kind of, do you need like all the direction, or can we just be like, hey, go and do this, and then you figure out how to do it? Right. And so what we're trying to do at Venture Institute is just be like, okay, this is what makes a good VC. This is how we can test for these things during a learning program. And that's how we're kind of like assessing all the participants. Right. So hopefully that answers the question, Georgie. So I'm going to take this question down, and then I want to do, there's another, oh, I like this one. So this question is from, uh, is it Florian? Sorry, the name is not showing for me. Floris. There we go. So, Mile, your story is very inspiring, and I would like to follow your footsteps. In your words, what made you stand out and earn one of the residency spots?
I think it's really first of all, 1000% following everything that Mirto says. That is definitely the Bible. She is already nailing down the trust the process. So definitely do that. And then when it comes to like standing out, that's the whole point, like some people overlook the Snapchat. I love that analogy, Mirto. And then, you need to kind of look at your cohort as well, but don't even look, at others as competitors. Just look at what can I do that I'm so something that is, unique to me. For example, you're going to be asked every week to share on LinkedIn with your peers something useful that you found, maybe a research paper, maybe an academic paper, a tool that would be useful for your community. And something that I did different is that every week, instead of just sharing a link and a little post, I decided to make a video. And every week I had this, video posted where I kind of recap what is working for me and how much, effort I'm putting into. Maybe I am going to local events to make sure that I'm nailing down this week's sprint, and like going to this event to search for founders so that I can make this deal memo the best. Like I tried to make sure that each week I did something practical. So whether that was going to a local event, to another online event, maybe finding a new tool and then sharing that with the community, right? So something that also, trying to figure out how can I become the thought leader is by utilizing my background, also knowledge in tech, and bringing that in each week's sprint as well. So definitely, be prompt, be on time, always, try to help others as well when you're being asked as well. Like helping the community is super important. And then make sure that you are just excited about what you do, because otherwise that's also not going to be working out. And making those videos, for me, it was super important. I put a lot of time and effort into making sure that each week was something new, and that I also share that with the community. So I think that was one of the things. And of course, quality of the work is super important. It was really not about the quantity. And I can be honest with you, there were some nights where I had to pull off all-nighter because I wanted to make sure everything is super clean and prompt. um, but just make sure that everything, you didn't just Google an answer, or you're not going to find a straight answer, but you didn't just like copy paste from ChatGPT an answer. The team is super smart about it. They're super aware how to notice that, and you're not going to get the most out of the program. So make sure that you're doing the work, and you're bringing something extra from your personal experience each week as well.
Yeah, thank you, Migle. Yeah, I would echo all of the things that you said. And again, it kind of goes back to the attributes of being a good VC. So we're really looking for people who are able to be consistent in how they produce and deliver their work, but that are also unique and can kind of bring something new to the table in terms of a point of view or kind of an approach or a way of communicating. Because again, like we're looking for diversity, we're looking to make this a very diverse ecosystem, because that's how we think venture capital is going to be turned into a force for good, which is kind of what we're trying to achieve here. So being consistent, being unique, being true to yourself are all kind of things that can help you gain this residency. So hopefully that answers your question, Flores. I'm gonna go and do Raman's question next. So I'm gonna show it here on stage. So for someone looking to establish a VC firm, which program is more suitable, Venture Institute or VC Lab? So VC Lab, at VC Lab, we host a range of learning programs. So I wanna kind of quickly go through those. So Venture Institute is the learning program that we're talking about. It's mainly suited for people who are looking to uh, transition into a venture capital career, or maybe at some point you want to start your venture capital fund, so you want to learn about the industry, or you just kind of want to take this as a learning program. Maybe you're a startup founder, maybe you're even kind of an angel investor. You're kind of interested in VC, you want to learn what all of this is all about. So that's Venture Institute. Our flagship program is VC Lab, and VC Lab is a closing program. So it's not a learning program, it's a closing program for people who are looking to set up their venture capital firm. So they're going to become a general partner or a managing partner of their own venture capital fund. And it's a closing program, which means that we help these managers get from an idea of like, this is the fund I want to create, to conducting a first close, which means kind of calling all the capital that they managed to fundraise during the program and then start deploying capital, and which means that they have a fully kind of functional, formed venture capital fund, right? So that's kind of the main differentiator between Venture Institute and VC Lab. And maybe Domenica, we can add a link to VC Lab as well for the folks here who are looking to launch a venture capital fund, because that program would be better suited to you. On here, on this point, I do want to mention the third program, which we run, called LP Institute. And maybe Domenica, we can also add a link to LP Institute here. LP Institute is the newest program that we've launched. And this is for people or organizations that want to explore venture capital as a new investment class that they're looking to invest in. So if you are a high net worth individual, or you want to invest in a VC fund and you want to learn how to do that, and you also have to have the capital to commit to a VC fund, then LP Institute is also a program that we're running. Super interesting, and I think, as you can see, just to kind of highlight a little bit how we think about turning venture capital into a force for good is that, we're kind of working at all levels. We're starting out helping people set up VC funds. That's VC Lab. Venture Institute is how we build kind of the community to staff these new and emerging VC funds that are coming out. And LP Institute is kind of, a way for us to kind of connect investors who are looking to invest in ethical and impactful VC funds to invest in these new and emerging managers. So we're really like, rebuilding the ecosystem from the ground up here. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay, so let's show Roxana's question next. Roxana is asking if you have any advice for the Venture Institute application, any ways to stand out. So, Miguel, I don't know if you remember your application. Do you want to kind of say how you managed to stand out in your application?
I'm trying to think if I also posted a video like a presentation or not. I can't remember. Maybe that was another thing, but I do remember just, looking at my career and thinking what experiences could help me with venture capital. And as I said, I do come from tech background and, I was working for startups, so I was related but not with venture capital. But it's important to kind of, not just mention that you did something, but mention how that experience, like explain how that experience will be related to you moving into the venture capital. And then like even writing that application made me truly rethink, okay, is this for me? And by the end, like I was absolutely 100% convinced, this is for me because I truly like positioned my application to kind of to explain that every step that I did thus far like contributes for me taking the next step into this industry. So I would say, be truthful to yourself. Your LinkedIn, kind of your socials are also important, how you're presenting yourself to to the world, because we are professionals living there, so it's important, it's up to date and that you have all of your experiences listed there. And I don't think, that's what's so amazing about the program, that they're not looking for someone that is Ivy League school graduate or some specific, alma mater. It's truly about, your motivation as well, and how truly much you want to do this. So let's say if you're struggling to think, oh, I'm not, a startup founder, or I didn't do like, a CEO job, that's fine. Then, focus on the motivation and explain that, you're setting aside a lot of time for this program. You're ready to go full in, you're ready to kind of take this, to truly like next level and put all of your time and effort. Like it's so important that you put time into this, and just pointing that out on your application, how you will do that, maybe kind of explaining that, okay, I'm going to set aside each day, like X amount of hours, things like that, being super precise and detailed with examples. That's so so important. So don't try to be abstract. Don't try to use, ChatGPT. Again, I want to kind of point that out. We're going to notice it. Be precise, be relevant to your own experience. I would say those are the points I would focus on trying to stand out in the application.
Yeah, these are really good points. And everyone, yeah, so you don't need to have any kind of particular background in venture capital, not even the startup ecosystem. We are really looking for people who are super passionate about this. We're looking for people who, have excelled at something before, whether it's sports, whether it's you worked in the biotech industry, maybe I mean, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Like, we're just looking for people who just are showing us, that they have a drive, that they're passionate, they can be really driven and be passionate enough to kind of excel in whatever it is that they're pursuing. And that you really want to get into the space, or there's kind of like a good reason why you want to learn about venture capital. Um, so it's very, open. It's a very simple application process as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Roxana. Thank you for asking it. Awesome. So I'm going to put this one up next. Uh, this is a question from Salik. from India. Hi, Salik. You're joining from very far away. Thanks for being here. So, Salik is asking how helpful is the course, how helpful the course has been to increase the cross-border job opportunities. So, I mean, Migle, where are you? Where talk about cross-border.
Yes, I am so far away as well, all over, the Europe. And at the moment, I am in Lithuania, in Eastern Europe. And I'm working for VC Lab, Dassault Group that is based in Santo Paulo in California. So I think I'm a prime example. And a lot of the members in cohorts, I really wanted to stress that out. We were all over the place, really, and from many different continents, really. So of course, just by the numbers, we of course had a lot of American peers as well, but we truly had so many different people from many different countries. And I think what's helpful about it as well is, you know, again, as I mentioned, I went to local events. So that means that I went to events that were hosted, for example, in Vienna or in Berlin, in like local VC ecosystem. But then I was getting the weekly, hosts from all over the world as well. Like the people that are going to be coming to your weekly sessions, they're also based in so many different continents. So they're bringing their experience. So, but when it comes to like practical knowledge as well, you're getting the material that is focused on global perspective as well, so you can truly take both like the portfolio that you're going to have that's applicable for anywhere, like we don't get into like per se like intricacies of I don't know like specific taxation, but we do touch upon like how to do the general things with when it comes to venture capital accounting, for example. So that's applicable all over the world globally, and that's something that is used anywhere in any VC firm around the globe. So and then again, the people that are going to be the community that is going to be your peers are going to be from all over the world. So I do know other residents, for example, I can share, that they were also from many different countries, and then they got, placed in firms that were also not only in US, some in US. So it's very like we are remote first in general. Everything happens online as well, and that's so incredible because that opens the doors for anyone, and that's what makes it also more applicable for anyone in the world. So yes, it's a borderless program with borderless opportunities, and I'm definitely the example. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to kind of touch on this a little bit as well. So, what happens is that, you're basically going through a venture capital course that was, you know, um, born in Silicon Valley in the US from venture capital investors and people helping to set up these very successful new venture capital funds today. And so, um, it's safe to say that Silicon Valley has first of all it's kind of the birthplace of successful kind of venture capital, and it's really kind of the location that has dissipated the model to the rest of the world. And so you're kind of obviously depending on the region, the model has been kind of applied. Um, in its unique way. But for Venture Institute, you're really kind of like looking at venture capital, how it's done in Silicon Valley still. So this is knowledge that's really valuable everywhere in the world. And so it's for me it's kind of the origin of venture capital. It's kind of like the best in class of venture capital. So that's kind of where the source of your learning is going to take place. What happens at the end of the program is that we ask anyone who's interested in doing a residency to tell us which region they would prefer to do their residency in. So if you're in Europe, maybe you're like, oh, I'm interested in the European market, but also the US market, for example. So you tell us kind of your regions of interest. And then at the same time, we also ask the fund managers to tell us like where they want their residents to be located. Some fund managers are going to tell us, I want someone who's based locally, who can go out to the events in person and kind of, be someone on the ground for me. Other fund managers are a lot more remote and they're kind of like, well, we're in the US, but we're investing in Europe. And so we want someone who's going to be in Europe. And what we do is that we try to match the supply and demand when it comes to time to kind of run these residencies. So it's very likely. So maybe, you're in India, maybe there's a fund manager in the US looking to hire someone in India or to work with someone in India because they're expanding their operations there. And so you'd be kind of a good candidate by way of example. So um, it depends on demand in terms of the residency, but you know, in terms of job opportunities, it's most likely you're going to be hired by a VC that's kind of like in your local ecosystem, but there have been exceptions to this. Awesome. So we are getting to the top of the hour, everyone. So maybe we can do one last question and then we can wrap. So I'll do this one from Susie. So, hi, Susie. Thanks for asking your question. So, just took a look at the schedule. How long is each session? So, each session is 1 hour. And then you have an hour of networking where you can, meet your peers and discuss about the weekly sprints and your work or your ideas with them. What time should we expect our homework each week? So, what time what time investment you need to put into your sprints? Mila, I don't know how long did you do it? We say at least like 10 hours to dedicate to the program a week, but some people do way more. What was it like for you?
Yeah. Each week is different, and of course, depends again on your expertise. Like, for example, for me, I needed to take way many more extra hours to like work on economics calculations. I did not have much experience in that sense, so I needed to take much more time on those weeks. And I would say definitely exceeded, some weeks above 20 hours and beyond. And then there were weeks that, I knew much more about the topic or I understood, I kind of got the grasp of it. But I would say minimum is definitely 10 hours if you kind of, if your goal is to get the most out of it and if your goal is to walk away with like good VC portfolio, it's for you as well. So as I said, like I put much more hours into it and I walked away with a large portfolio and a residency. I know people, walked away with less hours and, they got what they wanted. But, for example, I know one of my peers during the program, he started a venture capital newsletter and, he worked on it every week, like above 8 hours minimum. And would you add that into the amount of hours that, you worked on this program? It's debatable because it was, they VC Lab didn't like Venture Institute didn't ask us specifically to start a newsletter, but it definitely helped this person to excel, in the opportunities that they got after the program as well. So it's really kind of up to you, where you're going to take it. But I would say definitely minimum 10 hours. And there's going to be some weeks that, you're going to have to put a bit more effort, especially if you don't have much knowledge and experience. Like some weeks I just literally sat down and felt like going back to my university years and just like cramming a lot of papers and reading as much as I can about one topic to make sure that I know everything. And that next week, like, when I mentioned at the beginning of the call that I was able to be in those circles of venture capitalists and be part of the conversation, lead the conversation and be valuable. In order to get there, of course, you're going to want to put more hours into it. So that's my take.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Migle. Everyone, we hope this was useful. What we're going to do now is that we're going to end this main stage session, as we call it, and then you're going to see some tables appearing. So we encourage you to, first of all, stick around for networking. There's people here, go and kind of meet each other, but we also have an admissions questions table. So if you do have questions about applying or you've applied and you have questions on your application, then you can join that table and there's going to be a member of staff there ready to kind of answer all your questions. So with that, Migle, once again, thank you so much. This was amazing. We need to do this again. Everyone, pleasure to kind of do this for you. Once again, we hope it was useful and hopefully, we'll see a lot of you at this next kind of Venture Institute. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day wherever you are.